Trey Wave got another one.
What it do, what it do, what it do. It's your boy B. Damone and Coach Gomez in the house. Episode 118 of Along the Wire. And it is a new year, and we are back at Level Up Productions, and it is going down.
Yes, sir.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
As you know, we've taken a couple of weeks off, been able to recharge the battery,
Yeah.
and we have some new state champions.
Yeah.
So let's hit on that real quick. Last night, the final game was Westlake versus South Lake Carroll. Who did you have going into that?
Austin Westlake.
Austin Westlake, yeah. They handled up 52-21. And then the game before that, Katy versus Cedar Hill.
Yeah.
I had Katy.
I had Cedar Hill.
You had Cedar Hill?
Yeah.
You legitimately had them?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
man.
man.
I thought they had more of the athletes and stuff like that, but
Right.
they just didn't have a game plan, to be honest with you.
Have you seen Katy's offensive line?
Yeah, I had seen the offensive line, but I also had seen Cedar Hill what they did throughout the season.
Right.
In a tough schedule.
And they got hot. I mean, and even with that tough schedule, they were a hot squad.
Yeah, they were. So
They always stepped up.
I on paper it was Katy,
Mm-hmm.
but just in as visualizing
Right.
it, it was
Right.
Cedar Hill to me,
Right.
and they just surprised me with all the mistakes they made. There was even one during a screen pass where that quarterback just threw it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even see where he was throwing it from Cedar Hill, and he
Yeah.
was it
And he
Salter?
dove and
Ended up getting an interception to
Yeah.
the back for a pick six, a defensive
Yeah.
end. But there was a lot of just silly mistakes that ended up unfolding that surprised me. But yeah, hands down to Katy, man. They tore it up.
yeah. And then 5A, we had Denton Ryan beat Cedar Park. I thought that was possibly going to be a closer game, but I guess Denton Ryan's tired of playing these last second. And just overall, Denton Ryan on special teams, defense, and offense. You know, if they're clicking, that's one of the toughest teams. And I want to make sure I give the credit. It may have been Matt Stepp who said if they played at Division II and 6A that they'd make a pretty good run there.
Yeah, Den Ryan, I mean, they're a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
They're there year in, year out. I think Cedar Park was more they hadn't played in a big show before.
Mm-hmm.
So them being inside the Dallas Cowboys Stadium instead of probably more in shock more than anything. So
Right.
they didn't bring their game. They weren't the same team we had seen play the last 2 weeks.
Exactly. Deservingly to be there though, because I mean they play their butts off to get in that spot, and I really thought that it was going to be a closer game than that.
Yeah, for sure.
Lastly, in 5A, Aledo with another state title
Yeah.
over Crosby. I actually knew that one was going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that finished 56-21,
Yep.
and after halftime, that was over.
And that Crosby has some athletes as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, once you get into that state championship game, it don't matter what kind of athletes you have on this sideline. It doesn't matter what kind of athletes you have on that sideline. What matters is the brains that are putting this machine together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are
Yeah.
we going to put our players in positions to be successful? What kind of game plan are we going in against this squad? You know what I mean? So that plays a huge role once you get deep into the playoffs. And if you look, those coaches that were there with those teams, half of those coaches are the top 10 highest paid coaches in the state of Texas.
Right. Right.
They're the top
So
paying coaches, and there's a reason behind it.
Exactly.
And that's why they're winning state championships.
And it's why you always hear those schools over and over
and over again. I mean, like you got who is it?
Katy.
Lake Travis, the guy from Lake Travis is number one. He's the highest paid. Then second, you got Dodge, who's second. Then you got
probably
Denton Ryan coach. Then you got the coach from Katy. I mean, that's already like. And then who else you got? Alito's coach. So you got 5 guys already in the top 10 or that are the highest paid as coaches in Texas.
Yeah.
That's Texas, man. That's a lot of high schools.
Exactly. So congrats to all the champions, 6A and 5A division, 1 and 2. Now the football season's over.
Yeah.
Another thing that we want to get into real quick, there's been some changes at the University of Texas. And I know we're both fans of Texas. So exit Tom Herman, enter Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
Sarkisian's had a couple of runs as a head coach at Washington and at USC. And just most recently, he was the offensive coordinator at Alabama. Last game, national championship game, got a lot of recruits excited about what they saw there, because just a week before that game, he had signed on to be the new head coach at the University of Texas. So congrats to Steve Sarkisian on that move. He said he felt it was the right opportunity. He feels ready for it, and there's talent there at Texas to be had, and he wants to come here and win championships, which is all the right things to say and to have those aspirations. What are your thoughts on Sark as a coach?
I mean, the guy won some championships and was under Pete Carroll back in the days.
Right.
Whenever Texas played USC,
right,
he was actually on that sideline,
right,
on the opposite sideline. So he's come from a winning program and a winning, I guess, coaching tree.
Right.
Right, prior to him venturing off and going on to his
Carroll and Saban.
So, of course, he kind of went downhill a little bit when he went on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope between that time he's had some time to grow, which we all do.
Exactly.
And I believe that he's gonna bring a lot to the table being under those two coaches. I mean, overall, he probably has as assistant coach, what? Three national championships, 4 national championships.
Think about it. His first head coaching job, he was 33.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of mistakes you can make at 33.
Yeah. So I think, and then him assembling the assistants that he's bringing in, is going to be great. But what he did for Alabama offensively was amazing.
Exactly.
And I think that with Texas, with all the athletes that we have around here, and especially the receivers, the quarterbacks, the skilled athletes. Because a lot of the linemen, it seems to stay home, right? You're either going to A&M or Texas, but a lot of D linemen, offensive linemen.
But see, he's also been a part of poaching the Brockemeyer brothers, who were supposedly, Texas leans, and then he gets them to go to Bama.
Yeah.
And now you got the O-line coach and Sarkisian coming to Texas.
Yeah. So it's going to be...
Honestly, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the O-line can look.
Yeah.
Because if you got an O-line, you can do what you want.
And I feel that he's going to put his all into it, because I had heard somewhere that like 20 years ago, him and his dad had a conversation, and he was telling his dad, that's the job that I need to have.
Right.
So whenever he got hired on, he was on the phone with his dad a couple of days ago, and his dad said, "Remember when you said it was your dream job? Now you got it."
Mm-hmm.
So if that was his dream job 20 years ago and he has it now, I think that we're going to get his full attention to this athletic
and
department. Yeah.
I like that you said that, because this is something that, before the show started, that I kind of wanted to hit on. Dream job is something that you're going to cherish, right?
Yeah.
Something that you're going to go about and you're going to want to take care of and always put your best foot forward. One thing that I definitely want to say is, when you're the head coach at the University of Texas, I haven't been the head coach, but I understand being a fan or a supporter of the university, and some of the things that have happened to where, now it's kind of funny if people say, "Is Texas back?" or "Texas, we're back," whatever. There's a lot of undoubtedly responsibility that comes with being the coach.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But there's a respect and a grind and a hunger that you should not lose just because you apparently have this logo on your chest.
Yeah.
It does not mean that you can walk around arrogantly and just demand things and still not have to put forth that same effort that got you in that position. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can't lose that. You can't lose that hunger or have a unrealistic expectation of what a University of Texas offer means to a kid, because the second that you get there, we all hear horror stories about how coaches might treat players, or how coaches might treat coaching staffs in high schools of just based off of being arrogant, thinking that you are who you are because of the university that you come from. And one of the reasons why it's the dream job is because it's the flagship school of the state. Regardless of whatever success these schools are having recently, historically, Texas is always the best school in the state of Texas. Live with it. So that, based off of the fact that you look at Ohio State, you look at Alabama, where if you have about 20% of your squad from the state of Texas in those powerhouse areas, then they're recruiting Texas over some of their own players in state.
Yeah.
Because even Bama doesn't just recruit Bama. Bama recruits Louisiana, Georgia, Tennessee. Like, they pick. But when you're in Texas, you literally do not have to leave out of the state to get what you need anywhere.
Yeah.
If you need an offensive lineman, you need 2 or 3. If you can knock off some of the top 10, if you need a quarterback, you don't have to worry about that. Running back.
But it's all building a relationship with the high school coaches and not being that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can't burn bridges.
Exactly. It's a good time for Sark to rebuild.
Yeah, because Tom Herman brought a little bit to the table, but I saw what kind of man he was during the whole Urban Meyer situation, that whole thing. You know, why you're going to go and speak up some stuff about some incidents that happened way back when, just to screw with them. If you're really a man, you should have stood up and said something when you were on that coaching staff when all this shit was happening.
So there's differences in the delivery, and there's plenty of examples of what you don't want to do.
So you saw his character and who type of person he was back then, and now it's good to get all that out of the way.
Right,
he brought so much drama. Then now you got a guy who just wanted
stuff that takes away from the football field,
exactly,
but yet makes those issues that you have on the field magnified.
Yes, exactly.
So
you got a guy who just won a national championship, fresh slate.
Yeah,
I'm excited, man, and the way he's building. He's promising to keep these Texas kids here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see Texas where they're supposed to be.
Right, and having the excitement be behind the offer, because still it's one of the best offers in college football if you're offered a scholarship from the University of Texas.
And I hope some of those kids that were in the transfer portal end up coming back or take their names out of it, or maybe Sark, ends up telling them, hey, why don't you just stay? Because, I mean, there's some kids that we lost right here at the very end throughout the month of December from Texas that, like Xavier Alford, and we ended up going to USC.
You're right.
You got
but he's also going back to the coach who recruited him here at Texas.
True.
So that's one of the things.
Yeah, but still, you were supposed to go for the school, not the coach.
I know.
I don't understand.
I know, but
because whenever we tell these kids to choose these schools, make sure you got your major, make sure that's where you want to be the next 4 years. You're not chasing a coach. Obviously, in this case, he is.
So I mean, man, that's just tough. I mean, that's tough for Texas because Alfred was one of my favorite kids I wanted to see, who has that mix of great mental player and has the physical attributes, because when we missed out on Catalan the year before, when we got Alfred, I was like, all right.
Yeah.
The Chris Thompson at Auburn, that one really sucked to me because that would have been a kid from Duncanville that was lights out, which would make the Jalen Jones miss, even though Jalen Jones was always going to A&M. But Chris Thompson and Jalen Jones are like those two top DBs. You see Jalen balling out at Texas A&M now. But nevertheless, congratulations to Steve Sarkisian and the University of Texas and the assistant coaches that he's bringing on. He's bringing on a hell of a staff and bringing on some names, quality, and coaches who can develop talent.
Yeah.
And he was also able to hold on to Stan Drayton and Andre Coleman. I liked how he didn't separate the factions, which is what I always tell people whenever you're supporting a college team, period, is once a coach leaves, everything that he did leaves with him.
Yeah.
So don't hold on to those memories and those feelings, because now you have a new staff that's going to have new tendencies. So the late game issues with Herman, or the head scratching plays, or the defensive sets, all that stuff goes out the window now, along with the 4 bowl wins. I know we won the four bowls, 2 Alamo Bowls, a Texas Bowl, and a Sugar Bowl. So cool, great time. All right, on to the next. So wipe that slate clean, Texas fans. Don't be like, oh, this happened under Herman, blah blah. I'm not ever that fan to keep talking about the ex-coach like an ex-girlfriend, or something like that, because you got to move on.
For sure.
You got to move on, Texas fans. So don't be punks about it. Just move on. So congrats to the new staff coming on. I'm excited. Shout out to Horns 24/7 for the pictures, and Mike Roach. And we are going to end this segment, and we will be right back talking San Antonio High School football. Peace. What it do is B. Damone and Coach Gomez. We are back to talk a little bit about the year in review of San Antonio High School football. I learned a lot. I was able to actually compare now seasons, first full year focused on San Antonio High School football, and now a second year completely focused on high school football here in the city of San Antonio.
Not to mention you had the UTSA stuff going on, so that was a little different too.
Right.
So you had a little bit more on your plate.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But
shit, I'll be like, man, this guy went and did some high school games, and he has to go tomorrow to UTSA, and then I would see you at night at some other high school games. I'm like, man, okay,
that
it was a grind.
Overall, 40 high school games. I didn't think that was gonna happen.
No,
I didn't think that was gonna happen at all with COVID, especially. You know what? Let's jump into that real quick. What do you think this year's experience has been like for you, given COVID, and
having to deal with all the
any
the obstacles,
any changes that you noticed from how you move around pre to now?
Oh yeah, for sure, without a doubt. Catch myself at home a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I only come out when I need to come out, which is cool. You know what I mean? You spend a lot more time with your family.
Right.
Every time I'm touching something, my hands were getting dry.
Exactly.
My hands were getting dry. I had to go and find a new moisture. It's this green tea antibacterial stuff that I'm using now.
That doesn't dry your skin out.
Yeah. So, I mean, just that, the mask, it's like now every time I get in the car, it's like, all right, you got my mask with me?
Right.
Because now every time you go to the store, you got to have your mask.
Right.
So, yeah, man, just little things like that, you know.
I'm glad that people were respectful of each other in their space. I'm glad it wasn't a bunch of anti-maskers, whatever. Because I think people understood that them all being in the same area.
I think you're right on that, but it's also, too, is I guess I never put myself in a situation where there was some people as far as masks. You know, I guess because I didn't go out that much, so I don't know what it really, really was like.
But, I mean, like, as far as at the games, there wasn't ever any BS like that.
For sure. One thing that has really, really changed with us is just our grocery shopping at a point where we would try to go at times when it wasn't busy, you know, and then picking up stuff every now and then as well, pre-ordering stuff. And
you definitely you definitely found yourself weighing the options of going out.
Yeah,
like, is it worth it? Do I need to do this right now?
Yeah.
If I go out, I'm gonna go knock out a whole bunch of things rather than constantly going back and forth. How
about yourself?
I don't know. I mean, like, I didn't go up in the booths as much.
Yeah.
You know, if we were able to get in the booth and it was somebody else there, if it was more than one person or more than two people, I just didn't go. You know, unless it was like multi-layered, you know, levels to the media room. But
I know it. Whenever I showed up, we would only really go, and it was cold.
right,
That was the only reason we would go up.
Exactly.
If not, we wouldn't go up there.
exactly. And I mean, we were always able to stand off to the side.
Yeah.
And even the photographers, I mean, they weren't all over each other or anything like that, so everybody was able to get their space for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would really be the only difference is just being more
But
aware.
I think the funny, or not funniest, but the biggest difference was who would ever think that you would have to fill out a form to go into these football stadiums before going in, the COVID ones. You know what I mean? Your temperature, this and
Right.
that, you know.
Right.
You would never
I do like the online ticket sales.
Yeah.
I felt like stuff moved a lot better with online ticket sales.
Yeah.
And I hope they keep the streaming.
Yeah.
I hope they find a way to profit off of that.
That was cool.
Because it was really good seeing more games on the computer or, you know, even on apps.
I mean, I would put it on my phone and then AirPlay it to my TV. And
Right.
We're good to go.
Exactly. So, you know, I hope they find a way to monetize and keep that because that's all it comes down to is money.
Yeah.
Let's see. What was the best game that you attended and the best game you saw this year? Saw does not have to stick to San Antonio, but attended.
That I saw and attended both?
Yeah.
Unattended, you mean?
Yeah.
So the unattended game, I would go with the Stevens Harlingen game.
Okay.
I think that was a great game for them coming back. You know, that was a good. I ended up seeing some of the highlights and some of the film on online.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a good one I liked. And then one that I attended that I was in person for was the Clemens Wagner game. That one was a good one. I remember going in overtime. Butler put in it at the end, and just the week before he had just beat New Braunfels or Steel or something like that, punching it in at the end just like that. That game there was a lot of excitement in that game.
You know what's funny? I was going to go with a Wagner game myself, and I think I will. I think it was the Smithson Valley versus Wagner game was my favorite game that I personally attended, because that was Wagner's first game.
Yeah.
That was Wagner's first game, because they were held out a little bit longer than some of the other schools.
But no, it was a televised game. It was Wagner and Clemens.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Clemens was down by like 2 or 3 scores, and then Max took over in the game, and it was kind of a back and forth game.
I watched that.
Yeah,
I watched that.
That was an awesome game, man.
The best game that I didn't attend that I saw, man. That I didn't attend that I saw. Well, it would probably be that one. I mean,
which one?
That Clemens Wagner game. That was a hell of a game. That was a hell of a game. Yeah. So you know, short answer that. But the best non-San Antonio game that I saw was Miller versus Lamb Passes. When
they were down here, playoffs.
Yeah, that was one of the top games I saw. That's not a San Antonio squad.
Another one that was good too was the Miller Austin LBJ.
Yeah,
that was another good one.
Yeah. Biggest upset of the year to you?
The biggest upset of the year for me was the Judson Roosevelt.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not only that, was because Judson lost 2 weeks back to back.
Oh, that's true.
That was the biggest upset for me. I was just like, wow.
That's true.
They didn't even
think about that.
They didn't even bounce back.
I didn't even think
get
about
that W.
That.
You know what I mean?
The biggest upset of the year to me That's a good one. But I gotta go Warren beating Brennan.
Warren beating Brennan.
I did not
expect that.
I did not expect that at all. If there was any game I thought Brennan could lose, I was gonna say Harlan. But
So
that,
you would expect.
but that was before the season.
So you would expect for Roosevelt to beat Judson on any given night? Because you're basically saying you would expect Brennan to beat what?
I could
Warren
see
any
Roosevelt beating Judson more than I could ever see Warren beating Brennan.
Really?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I could see that. I could see it, especially given.
I could see Roosevelt giving them a battle every time, but
Right.
I didn't think that they would give a.
But see,
get-
even
win it.
that, I would never see Warren giving Brennan a battle.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll always say it. Given talking to those Roosevelt coaches, they
Yeah. When we
They
talked to
were-
them, they were.
they were like, "Oh, we got something."
They saw what we saw. We called what they were doing. As far as they're standing straight up. You know what I mean?
Right.
I already had told you.
Right.
Like that's what the coaches were saying.
Exactly. So, I mean, I guess I think about that in that too, because it was like their heads weren't down, they weren't nervous or nothing. It was
They knew something was up, and they could get something
Right.
done.
right because those tendencies aren't going to change just like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all right, biggest upset of the year. School stock on the rise.
Schools.
Not okay. So when I put this together, a school that surprised you that did very well.
I would have to go with Stevens again. I didn't expect them to go as far as they did this year and have the success they had. Especially with not having a true starting quarterback going into the season. As far as, like, all right, we have an experienced guy coming back. And then to go that
Right.
far, you had, a sophomore and KK Brashears come up.
I like that team. Yeah.
And that dude just out of nowhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those coaches put him all in positions to do great things, and they were in close games.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, sometimes it looked like they were going to lose, and then they'd pull it out.
Yeah.
And I'd say that they're on the rise to me. Of course, because you always hear about the Brennans. Brennan's
Yeah.
always competing. You always hear about the Judsons, and you always hear about the Reagans, and it's almost a toss up in some of those other districts because
Right.
those teams are always you always hear about them.
Mm-hmm.
You hadn't heard about Stevens in a while. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna go with same district, but a school that we always talked about giving teams fights, and that's Taft.
Taft was another one on the rise. Yeah.
Taft totally shocked me.
I mean, they were the same. They're the same as Stevens.
Yeah.
Both of those are a toss up, to be honest
Right.
with you, because
You didn't
you didn't expect either of those teams.
right, and Stevens was both of our picks to mess up O'Connor.
Yeah.
Based off of the way that we thought district was going to wind up in Northside, but I did not see Taft in there.
And then Holmes in the top 25 this year.
Shots
fired. Shots fired. No, but Holmes won that, 2 or 3 games?
2,
And they hadn't won in a minute.
right? Yeah. It reminds you of that long Edison run when Edison hadn't won a game for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
And Memorial, too. They hadn't won
Yeah.
in a while. That was the long run.
yeah. Let's see. So, opposite end of the spectrum now. What school had a rougher year than you expected?
I actually got 2,
Okay.
if that's fine.
I might be with you on that.
I got 2. John Jay was one that disappointed me.
Okay.
I thought they were going to do a lot better.
Okay.
And Sam Houston.
Oh,
I really
no.
thought Sam was going to do a lot better this year just because of the changes they had take place
Uh-huh.
as a head coach coming in. But COVID did have a lot to do with it because he
Right.
probably didn't have his hands on those kids like he normally would.
Right. Right.
But I really expected for Sam to do some kind of change. I was excited to see what they could do, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be more amped for them. Just depending on how much hands-on time coaches get in this off season, because now you've had a full season with COVID. So now let's see what our training regimens and stuff will be. But honestly, I gotta say, City of San Antonio, if you are not obeying the rules, or if you're just out here being reckless and the numbers are going to be what they are, then that's going to affect the school system first. So if you're not handling your business for yourselves, it's going to affect other people.
See, but you hit it around the head, but I don't know how some of these high schools are pulling off where some of these kids are already getting some in-depth high school. They're going at it in the weight room, and then there's other ones that are taking the safety precautions and aren't even in there yet.
Right.
So it's like, who's monitoring them? Who's checking up? Like, how come we all aren't getting the same training across the board?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Why are some obeying rules and the others aren't?
But I think that it just comes down to money, because there are certain schools that are going to be able to take the risk because they can invest in that security safety measure. If it's just cleaning utensils, you know, like, who was I with the other day? They were talking. Someone was talking about they had to go to straight peanut butter sandwich because they had to cut the jelly budget.
Yeah, I hear that because I hear some like, oh, we got the nicest weight room in San Antonio, or we got one of the nicest weight rooms in San Antonio. But yeah, your football players ain't never been in it,
right?
Since this whole pandemic started, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So why are you gonna be promoting your football weight room if you can't even lift in it?
Right. So my opposite end of the spectrum was, I was taken back by Brandeis. I fully expected them to be able to make the playoffs going over into Northeast. I know quarterback challenges can be the biggest challenge of all, but then also going through COVID and losing some key players in certain games, that I really felt that if they were there, they probably would have been able to pull off a couple of more wins, in which they never got blown out.
No, they always competed. I think they were a young team this year. You know what I mean? So they lost a lot of key positions. Yeah, they lost a lot of key positions.
Yeah.
And I think the next year they might be back on the rise. I know they got a transfer coming in Rave, who was at Medina Valley, big tight end. And he's going to be an asset, man. And that's what Brandeis was missing, was the last two playoff runs when they did the last 2 years. They had big linemen. They had big tight ends. They were paving the way for battles. You know what I mean? And they lost some linemen. Remember, what was that one that broke his foot the year before?
Yes.
And then you had the tight end Cardenas.
Yeah.
So you had some big boys up front. That makes
They had Bowen.
They had Bowen. They make a big difference. And this year was more kind of like a
Chris Bowen.
It's a rebuilding year for them. Yeah, they had some guys at key positions, but at the same time, if you don't have the guys up front to win the trenches.
And I think Brandeis was a little bit of an easy pick for me, but also how you said Jay, I was thinking O'Connor.
Yeah.
O'Connor is one of those regular names that you're used to seeing in the playoffs, and they took a big drop.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in seeing their comeback and response, because I kind of feel like if this is a 2-year thing, are you possibly seeing a changing of the guard with KK coming up and Stevens able to keep somebody out of the playoffs? You also have quarterback change coming up at Harlan.
And Stevens took the gamble and started some young guys early. So next year they're gonna have success off of it, because they have a lot of returners coming back.
Right. Maybe the only solid playoff school that you could say in there is Brennan, because they got all their freshmen and sophomores in there this year with their good senior leadership, especially on that defensive side, and their running back, so I think Brennan is the only school I think you can have a real lock on, and maybe Stevens is that second school. So if it's not O'Connor and it's possibly Taft, that leaves it up again for Warren. Unfortunately, Marshall's quarterback is a senior, so whoever they have coming up.
See, Marshall hadn't had success in a while either.
And they were
They were hot for the
Yeah.
that quarterback they had.
Yeah.
He was a dual threat.
He's a big kid too.
Yeah.
Big kid. Let's see what else. Next up, city trends notice. Did you notice anything? And I'll start it off. Well, I gotta say, a city trend that I noticed was not continuing with things that made you successful. And maybe this isn't so much on the players, it's the coaches. Because it was some head scratching moments in which it's like you're either going to let the bird fly or you're going to keep him caged when it comes to your quarterbacks or when it comes to dancing with the one that got you there.
Yeah.
You know, and I see this as a citywide thing. You know, if you got a dog, you got to use your dog, and if you got to come up with different ways to get people the ball, then that's on you as a coach to do it. You know, and I mean, I know a lot of times it's like, well, we might not have the players to have the ability to do this, so we do this because this is what we're able to do the best right now. And it's like, well, you're never going to be able to get versatile if what you're doing that you do best right now still isn't working. So what's stopping you from
can't get any worse?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd say that that's a city trend.
So let me ask you, is that a city trend that you saw develop this season, or is this something you've seen throughout the years? Because I'm one. Oh, let me let you answer that first.
Well, I would say that I can say it's a trend because when I first opened up, I said in comparison from last year to this year.
Okay, gotcha.
So I can say that that's a trend.
So you think
I saw it pick up though?
Do you think that it's something that's COVID based because you didn't spend enough time with your kids? No, not at all.
No,
got you. It's just being stubborn and
because
not exploiting what could possibly.
Right, because even with all the COVID talk and everything like that, that you're out there on the field, you're playing.
Yeah.
You know, you can't say, "Oh, I didn't use you because of COVID."
True. So we didn't put why we didn't utilize maybe Aiden on the offensive side of the ball, Brandis a little bit more.
Right.
Or how come we didn't utilize Staten Anchor more? You know what I mean? Because he did get some passes thrown his way, but not as much as I feel he should have throughout the season. Why didn't we?
Well, see, like in that example, I would lean more so on the Aiden than I would Stankham, because when you got a beast like Green, I'm not mad at him getting more carries.
When you got a beast like Green, you should be eating that play action all day.
True.
All day,
yeah.
Not just straight. Yeah. All right, well, it's either Green or that quarterback would run it. Green or the quarterback.
Britton.
Yeah, Britton.
Yeah.
You know, Ankrum, he would get some big plays when they needed a big third down or whatever. But no, I would put him on a first down. I'm gonna go and air it out every.
Yeah, because and the thing I saw that was another trend on the obvious is you can't go to your monster when it's obvious. That's all that you can go to.
Yeah.
In that moment.
You see, say for instance, you come out fake to Green. You know, the play action, everything's Green's gonna get on
RPO.
First down. First down. But no, we're going to anchor downfield. Dude's fast enough. Dude runs crisp routes. Let's do it.
I'd say the school that gets the most out of every single player is Johnson.
I don't know. I would say Smith and Valley has to run with that too.
Well, okay, so I'll say the school that gets most out of their players that have the proven abilities of doing what they have to do and not being confined by a player that switched. Because that's another trend is the switching of players and positions.
Yeah, but they did the switch, but they also had receivers that were playing their role. They had DBs that were playing, linebackers, offensive linemen. I mean, Coach Hill out there, man.
I know. Okay. Well, I get what you're saying in that aspect, but I'm saying when it comes to a quarterback, who would you say is a better quarterback between Jalen Nutt and Ty Reasoner?
Oh, for sure, Reasoner.
Right. So, I mean, as far as as far as being honed in their positions, not naturally, but, if Jalen Nutt's a DB and you have him going over the quarterback and there's a certain skill set he has, yeah, he definitely got the most out of him that he got. But I guess we're saying the same thing. We're saying the same thing. I'm thinking more so, I guess, traditional
position, yeah. Traditional player.
Right. A player who's been at that position for a while, as opposed to you putting together a
An
game
athlete,
plan. Right.
yeah.
So, yeah. Johnson, I'd say, because Shane had 18 touchdowns this year?
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. Like, if you know that he's something of what, not all they got, but because they have Kanan too, but he still got his, and he's there, and he's supposed, and you have to stop him from getting it. He still got it.
Yeah.
So what trends did you see, or have you noticed?
That we're all running the same offense now.
The entire city?
The entire city almost runs the same offense, man. Right? I mean, because that's what it is now. I mean, you got Wagner, who's different.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't see another power ride no more. Of course, it's all a passing game now, but, just some of the old just smash mouth football is not there no more. You know what I'm saying? Just I'm gonna run it down your throat type of ball. You got some guys that are different, but some guys also that are predictable, man.
I'm trying to think.
That's what I would say. The trend is just being predictable.
Right.
There was a couple of teams out there where we could tell where they were gonna run the ball and when we were there evaluating them the whole time.
Okay, I get you. I can go with that.
I mean, like back then, you had like the Marshalls who had a crazy running game. You got, even the Holy Cross. Holy Cross has different kinds of stuff that they'll throw at you, different formations and stuff.
Okay.
What's up? Talk to me.
Best team in San Antonio, regardless of classification.
Ooh. Best team of this year?
Yeah.
Of this year, regardless of classification. I'd have to say Brennan.
Why Brennan?
Fast defense. Potent offense. I mean, I like the way they played overall. You?
I'm going with Cornerstone. They beat Round Rock. They beat state finalists in LBJ. I mean, I don't think no other team outside of Steele who beat Round Rock, who beat Lake Travis, who's gotten a better bodies team didn't beat LBJ, but Lucas Coley's team did and held them.
Yeah.
When they were in a groove.
Yeah.
When they were just kicking up.
But also, too, that was when LBJ, what game was that? What number game was that?
That was game number 5.
See, but we all forget, too, that Cornerstone was out way before everybody working out, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, right? So we used to talk about that.
I know.
They were out like months before everybody.
But
that makes a huge difference, especially when you got some coaches who know what they're doing also.
See, that sounds like pluses.
Because whenever we talked about the Cal Allen game, that very first game, I said Cornerstone's gonna pull it out because they already been on it. They've been working.
I didn't even mention Cal Allen.
Well, no, when I said that,
I know.
But I mean,
I would put Cornerstone up against
second against Brennan.
Right. I would put them up against anybody in the city though.
Yeah.
I would definitely Cornerstone versus anybody in the city is a good game. especially if you have a school. If Roosevelt's beating Judson, Cornerstone could beat Judson.
I'll give you that.
Because especially with the receivers they got, Kai McCarty, Jalen Gardner. That's just going to be issues.
Yeah.
Lucas Coley, and then didn't even mention the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what would make the game great, is seeing what this past year's DeAnthony and Michael running against Cornerstone's defense, because I don't think they faced a dynamic like Judson has, but I think they've got the best. They've got the best wins of teams in the city versus out of the city competition, which is, you know, when you talk about Steele and Judson, who's performed better outside of the city than Cornerstone?
Yeah. And there was a few times Cornerstone called out some teams on their bye schedule, and nobody jumped on it.
Right. And also, you know, Judson with that same thing. You know, before COVID, they were looking for a matchup for week 3, and no one in the state wanted to play him.
Yeah.
Or had a time slot available. All right, let's see. Lastly, the most impressive thing about San Antonio football that you noticed this year
is the way everybody adapted, bro. Overall, you know what I mean, to this whole COVID situation, and how they made it happen for the kids. You know, as far as the stadiums and arranging what they needed to do. I think overall as a city, that was great to see, man.
Right.
Because they could end it and shut it down at any point. You know what I mean? And it was close. Sometimes it looked like.
Yeah.
And just seeing how everybody worked together to try to make it happen, and you saw how important it, you know, team sports are to the city, not just to the community, but you know, it makes life go. Because when we didn't have anything going on, it was almost just like, damn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And football makes a whole hell of a difference.
Agreed. That's a good one. That beats mine. The most impressive thing I would say is I like the friendships, but the competitiveness between the players in the city. Because, I mean, I've gotten messages, I've gotten DMs from players, like, talking about an array of subjects. And, but it's all, like, been a respectable, like, trash talk. Like, hey, I'm confident in this, so-and-so can't stop this, we're going to do this. And I'm like, okay, so, like, I'm not getting a bunch of reckless, I don't know where my head is type stuff. It's all, like, strategy and, like, you know, what can I do to improve? Like, it's always about getting better. So I would say that that's impressive to me, that I haven't gotten a bunch of whiny, oh, this district hates or you know, like, it's all been a positive competitiveness that from pretty much 99% of the messages I get from athletes here in San Antonio are positive about themselves and what they can do, and not hating on the opponent. So, I mean, I'd say hats off to the coaches for that, and hats off to the players for understanding and being more professional than childish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, I would say that. So, that's our year in review right now for the 2020 season, for the 2021 class. I know it's been rough with COVID and recruiting and everything, man, but that's a whole another subject. But we're gonna come right back and talk some 7-on-7, because once regular football is done, the work is still there to do, and it's in 7-on-7. So we're going to come back and talk to you about it. Thank you. Hey, what it do? It's B. Damone and Coach Gomez back to talk a little 7-on-7.
Yep.
So high school football done. Well, there's still the All-Star game, but still. A majority of 22, 23, 24s playing 7-on-7. And it goes down here in San Antonio. There's 9 teams that I have recorded down. So make sure if you are a class of 2022, 23, 24 kid that you are looking at these following squads. You will see the logos of the teams on the screen right now. You got DEF CON with Coach Gilry and Strotter. You got Elite House with Trey and Carl Whitley. You've got Primal Performance. You've got Fourth Quarter Pressure with DeAnthony Rimmer. You've got Texas Smoke with Sean Battles and
Coach Gomez.
You've got Front 7 with Calvin Robertson. You've got the SA Ducks with Coach Spencer and Coach Kaufman. You've got 210 affiliated with Coach Fernando and Gold 7-on-7 with Coach Sal. So if y'all need any links to those gentlemen, just hit me up on along the wire. I will be tweeting out their names and their 7-on-7 affiliations, so that you can make sure that you get onto a squad or see if there's an ability for you to try out. There's a tryout Sunday, which is today, going down with Smoke over at St. Matthews from 2 to 4 p.m. Yeah. 2 to 4 p.m. If y'all are able to make it out there, get out there. And we are going to keep you up to date on when there are different tournaments going down. The first national tournament here in San Antonio is going to be held by True Exposure Championship 7-on-7 over at the fields out by Star Complex. If y'all don't know where that's at, that's over kind of by Morgan's Wonderland. So, and that's February 6th and 7th. Yep. February 6th and 7th. And there, go to True Exposure on Twitter at True Exposure, TruXSPOUR. Yeah. True Exposure. Can you give us a little bit? You're at the roots of 7-on-7 football here in San Antonio, Texas. Can you tell us a little bit about what the scene is here for football? I mean, 7-on-7.
7-on-7 is great for a lot of these kids around here, around the city. The last 2 years, it's really developed. Back then, 4 or 5 years ago, you look, it was just ourselves. Back then, it was 7 Yard 7 Elite, and that was the best kids in San Antonio. And now you got 9, actually you got 12 teams right now. And, if it's great, it's a great teaching tool. It's a great tool for kids out there that, have missing fathers and don't get to get that extra work. Every team brings something different to the table. I know my team, when I had South Texas Sting, which now we've merged with Texas Smoke because of recruiting purposes, because of people that we work with, it just makes sense to make one team. Right. But you got to know what your reason is for. Yeah. You got to make sure that these coaches are out there actually working for you. All right. So a lot of these kids are developed because of their trainers. There's guys that are trainers, and all right, cool, we're going to develop this squad.
Position skill trainers.
Exactly. Okay. There's position skill trainers out there, and then you got guys like ourselves who are guys actually just helping in the recruiting basis of it. You know what I mean? And we also, this year, I combined it. I brought some skill trainers that are going to help us on the coaching side of it as well. But you got to know what these guys are out there helping you do. Are you out there to help build their brand, or are they out there to help you? Right. You know what I mean? There's some kids that just want to be part of the football team and just want to ball out and want to be on the nice films and highlight videos and so forth and nice pictures and whatever it is, wear the nice gear. But at the end of the day, especially with COVID right now, I would utilize my time wisely and make sure that these coaches are out there working for me. If a coach is not asking me for my GPA or what my SAT is, and seeing what's going on with my huddle and stuff like that,
Right.
then I don't think he really has the best interest in me. He's
Mhm.
worried about himself. That's the way I would think of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm out here, I want you working for me. You know what I mean?
So
want you-
mainly, this is a second season for you to put out film and work on your craft to make it to the next level.
Exactly. So
Okay.
some of the things that we do, just like in our program, we offer some tutoring. We'll offer tutoring. We'll offer, SAT tutoring, little things like that. Just guidance and recruiting. What steps do I got to take, Coach?
Mhm.
Do I got to go start filling out FAFSA, college applications, stuff like that. There's a lot of kids out here that don't even have the basics done. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just funny because you'll have guys, other coaches from other 7-on-7 teams getting in some of these kids' DMs that actually are on my squad or vice versa, but they promise them these other little things that don't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
This equipment and stuff like that, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that you say that I'm a top guy in your eyes. Like, what are you going to do for me?
Right.
So a lot of people get it twisted,
Mm-hmm.
and I know there are some other teams around here that actually they're headed in the right direction.
Right.
They're talking to the people that I talk to,
Mm-hmm.
or they're asking me for opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I know they're in the right direction. There's others, like I said, they're just really out there to build a brand. So just watch who you associate yourself with. At the end of the day, of course, you make your choice. You know what's good for you.
Right.
If you're looking just to get better with your trainer, then that's what you want. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you know that I'm trying to look to get to school, I want to be with some people that know the layout, know
Right.
the blueprint,
Right.
then you know what teams to look for. You know what I
Right.
mean? But any team's a good team as long as you're working on your craft.
Right.
But you just got to know what your purpose is, what's their purpose as well.
Right. And
Make
if they align, then
If they
Great.
align, yeah, great. If not, you go on or do
Right.
whatever you got to do. But San Antonio has come a long way. I know last year, which was coached by Calvin Robinson, a dream team had went up there and they had won
Pylon
Pylon.
Dallas.
That was huge.
That was huge.
That was huge for the city.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So you got a lot of these coaches who actually respect each other and they work with each other. A lot of these kids think, oh, this coach doesn't like this coach or that coach
Right.
doesn't like. Guys, y'all don't know how.
And Affiliated did well in Vegas, I believe.
They did decent
Yeah,
in Vegas
yeah,
as well,
yeah.
yes. And I know DEF CON had a little struggles out in Miami last
Mhm.
year, but they did come back and they played pretty good here in San Antonio. So, there's a lot of great squads out there. You got squads that are sponsored. You got squads that aren't sponsored. You got squads. I mean, you got to pick your cup
Right.
of tea. It's like
Right.
going to a restaurant. You got to pick what you want. you know?
Right. All right. So we're going to be talking a whole lot more on 7-on-7 and the scene here in San Antonio, Texas, because it's going to be that time. That's the
the time of the
sport
year.
that's going to be getting a main focus on, once high school football's done. You got quarterbacks, linebackers. If you remember Hayden Connor, big offensive lineman, was playing tight end, 6'5", 320-pound tight end.
Yeah.
But I mean, even these offensive linemen are trying to find a way to get out there and up their skills.
Even some of these big tight ends. I remember one year I had Ben Sims, who's out at Baylor right now. Boy was on the 7-on-7
Yeah.
scene, just
Yeah.
ripping it up down here. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because nobody could match up with the big.
Shout out Sims.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got some old highlight videos of that guy, man.
yeah. You got it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to see that.
You just throw it up. Because he was a basketball player as well.
Yeah, huh?
So basketball player and then a big tight end.
Mhm.
He throw it up, man. He was just one-handing them.
Yeah,
Just one-handing them.
out at Baylor now.
Yep.
So we're gonna come back because I know we just did a brief talk on that, but we're gonna have more on 7-on-7 talking with Coach Gomez, and I want to have some more coaches onto the podcast. And it's a new season. We're gonna be talking about some different teams, but some players from the high school area that y'all are gonna need to know about, and have some players on the show as well. So make sure y'all stay tuned. Make sure you like and subscribe to Along the Wire, San Antonio High School Football. Follow me at B Damone on Twitter. You can follow Coach Gomez at
STX7v7. Also, coaches, don't hesitate, man. Invite us out to y'all's practices. We'll be out there and we'll get to know your kids, get some exposure for them. Brandon has a player profile that he puts together that he has, GPAs on there, height, weight, the whole works, just to get you in that database so that, coaches call and ask, he has it on his database.
Mm-hmm. And definitely send me your film. I've had coaches send me players' names and things like that, but I do need GPAs verified. If I can verify them, that's the issue. I can understand a player telling me, I have this type, but I need to make sure.
Yeah, some transcripts, and I know y'all can get a hold of them because
So-
I got a folder at home on my computer saved with a lot of them as well.
Right. So we want to be on the up and up. We got to be on the up and up. It's all about the future. We're never going to talk about your touchdowns and your catches and everything you're doing if you aren't keeping those grades up.
Yep, agreed.
All right. So we will be back with episode 119. This has been episode 118. Thank you so much for supporting Along the Wire and watching on YouTube. And Happy New Year once again. We are back and ready. Peace.
Peace out.